The Killer Growth Podcast starts now.
What's up, guys? Sam McVeigh here with the Killer Growth Podcast, and today I have Tim Jordan with Service Catalyst. Thanks for being here, Tim.
Oh man, super happy to be here and have this conversation with you. Just excited to tell some stories and learn.
Yeah, for sure. I love your hat, by the way. I'm a big fan of good company merch, and like anybody who gets the rope hat, I'm like, those cost, it's a extra $1 or $2 a hat whenever you put the rope on
Right.
it. So I'm a big fan.
Yeah. Only 12 of these in the world. This we did for our founding members club. There was 12 of us, so this is a unique one.
That's awesome, dude. That's a good idea too. I appreciate that. The gym I go to in town has like merch that's only allowed for power lifters at a certain degree. So it's like a powerlifting gym. Then there's like the weak people like me that just do generalized strength training. But you have to like compete. And there's like this one shirt I want. And I'm like, I'm just not, my spine, the Lord did not make my spine to lift heavy weights, but I really want that merch.
It's funny. I'm not like a big like merch produces leads, but we've gotten multiple leads.
Oh, really? That's awesome. Very cool. Oh, did we just lose his mic? I think we just lost your audio, Tim. Can you hear me okay? There you are. You're back. You're back.
Oh, am I back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just lost your audio for a sec. All good. All right, dude. I don't know if you checked out any of the podcasts or seen any of the clips, but I kind of just like to start out with like, who is Tim Jordan and how did he get into business? And then we'll just have a conversation from there. So you can start wherever you want, man. And I'll interrupt you. I apologize in advance.
I love it, man. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. From 21 to 27, I bought and founded 5 companies. We went from 0 employees to 100 employees in that span.
Is that it? That's all you've done? You need to work
it was
harder.
So fun, man. I'm a deal maker. I loved that time of my life. So, there was this really key moment in there after we bought our second business. So I was 24. Our second business was a flower shop. And it was February 13th, 2013. I was standing in our flower shop at 5:30, and my wife walks in the door, and she looks at me. She gives me that look like only your significant other, somebody really close to you, can give you like, why do you have 3 heads right now? So what's going on? And she's like, why are you standing there? Like, why are you standing in the middle of 25 employees running around you, like 10 customers on the floor ordering flowers, you're doing nothing? And I had this like out of body experience. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was having a panic attack. So we had 300 flower deliveries to happen the next day that my business completely depended upon. I had no systems. The system we'd inherited was like a triple layer carbon copy, like order tickets you could buy at Office Depot. So 300 deliveries. Business depended on 900 water-soluble pieces of paper, and I was frozen. I was freaking out, man. I had a wad of them in one hand, and I had flowers in another hand that a designer was probably waiting for, and it was just like crazy. So like I did what all entrepreneurs do, right? I got the job done. I was up till literally 3 a.m. keying in addresses into Google Maps. I got back to the shop at 6. Got the deliveries out. I was personally out delivering till 10:30 that night. I was like exhausted mentally and physically, emotionally, however, every way possible. And like I remember thinking like, I wonder if my team's going to show up tomorrow. Like they're just as exhausted as I am. So February 15th, 2013 is when I started systematizing my businesses. So right like in the middle of that growth span, I had this moment of like, I got to figure out how to do this in a way that like doesn't depend upon me. So that is a big part of my story. Actually, Valentine's is a big part of my story. So right before my 27th birthday, we bought the largest flower shop in Northern Colorado. It became the 15th largest flower shop in the country. I succeeded a visionary pillar in the industry, and we had to figure out how to do Valentine's Day a lot better.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So yeah, that's like the high level of my story. We had a blast from 27 to like the next 10 years basically, which brings you to today. And luckily, like the systems that I figured out how to create and install and trust my team and design a culture of like afforded me owner independence. So I had all of these businesses, but at the end of the day, like I still traveled. I was at my daughter's soccer tournaments. I took 6 months off when she was born. I had all of this independence, and they also led to successful exits. I've sold all but one of those companies fairly easily and very lucratively at this point. So what I do now is try and help other early cycle service business owners like figure out how to do that, how to create owner independence, not through coaching or consulting. I'm not really a coach. I'm not a consultant. So I've helped a few people significantly along the way. And I did that by just like being community for them. So
Yeah.
I'm learning from them. I'm giving them resources and ideas at the same time. And we're kind of building our businesses together. So that was the genesis of Service Catalyst. We're a peer mentorship community. That stage in business where like you're working 60-hour weeks and you're still broke.
No, I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never experienced that. Yeah.
We help people get past that faster.
Yeah.
Like that, that's the whole idea. Like we help anyone. Also, we're not high ticket coaching. We help literally anyone get past that stage faster. So
yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. I've developed a passion. I used to have this like desire to do deals, which I still like doing a deal every once in a while, but now I really have this desire to help our members like grow and develop their companies.
That's awesome. So let's talk about Service Catalyst real quick. I like the peer mentorship versus coaching consulting. That's a great way to separate yourselves. I think in that industry, there's obviously plenty of coaches out there, consultants out there, lots of communities out there. So talk about first off, I've got a lot of small businesses that listen to this, a lot of them in town. And we had a guy on, Dan Kreis, who's a business coach, I think a couple weeks ago, and got a lot of great nuggets out of him. And his model's a little different. There's no technology involved. It's just him. And then he has these little Q groups where he gets business owners who don't have community together in person. So it's very localized.
I love it.
Right. And so a lot of like his heart and passion, I told Tyler before this episode, I'm like, this is going to be like having Dan Kreis on again. It's just a different version of Dan Kreis. And I'm like, I loved him. I love Dan, and they're doing it kind of the same way, but two different ways in a sense. But that's his whole thing. Like his whole episode was about, you have the worst boss in the world and it's you. And we've got to figure out how to get you out of that position and become an owner, right? And not an employee that's mad at his boss, which happens to be yourself. But let's talk about Service Catalyst and how do you participate? Is it a monthly dues? How does it work? What's the flow? Why should somebody be in that community?
So two things. One is I love local small group masterminds. Like that's very aligned with what Service Catalyst is. It's a different style than what we're doing, but I love it. I think that that's super effective. Can I tell you another quick story?
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
This is your show. I'm just here to make sure, we stay on time.
So May of 2023, a guy named Mike posted in a local, very active Facebook group, would any service business owner grab a beer with me? I'm new to owning a business and I need some help. I have some questions. So I was so busy at that time in my life, man. I think it was his vulnerability why I responded. I responded and said, hey man, yeah, let's do it. So I pulled up to this like hole in the wall brewery in Fort Collins, Colorado, and like imposter syndrome going wild, right? I'm about to walk into what amounts to be a first, like a business first date, right? And I'd never helped anyone before in my life. Like, how is my crazy serial entrepreneur career going to help this stranger? I might just be wasting his time. Whatever, I get out of the car, go in, and I didn't know this at the time, but Mike's the kind of guy that comes prepared. So he had a list of questions, right? And then he takes the answers to those questions and multiplies them by 10. Like that's just the kind of guy he is. I didn't know that. Pretty quickly through the conversation, I realized I've been through every single one of these situations. I know an answer, the answer, a lot of resources to help him. And this guy's just like giddy, right? So Mike at that time is hand to mouth, new business, new family, just literally surviving, chaos all around him, just surviving. So he texts me 4 weeks later and he goes, "Hey Tim, I've done everything you told me. I have a whole new set of questions. Oh, can I buy you another beer?" I was like, "Sure, man, let's do this." So we did this like month after month. 3 months later, like he's growing. That's 3 awesome. Months later, we got a foundation of systems. A couple months after that, we're setting him up on a CRM and getting all that going. Like a year later, he's hiring his first employee. A couple of years after that, we look back and we're like, okay, now you're systematized out of this growing business that's highly profitable. You're starting another business. Your family's thriving. You're thriving. What worked here? And how do we do it for other people? And that's when we came to the realization that it was less coaching, more community. Like I was not telling him what to do in his business. I was sharing my experiences, asking him questions, giving him resources. And ergo, I was learning a ton along the way. So it was this symbiotic relationship. But the point of the story is the other component is Mike 2 years before didn't have a 500 a month or 1,000 a month or 10,000 a month for coaching. It wasn't there. So we
could buy a $7 beer.
Right. Yeah. So honestly, that's really, I said earlier, the genesis of Service Catalyst, but that relationship is the genesis of Service Catalyst. We set out on a crusade to create something that could replicate that was attainable for any price point, any service business owner. And how we landed on that was an online peer mentorship community that provided 10 times the value of the monthly dues in just resources alone, provided some accountability meetings, some education meetings, and then we didn't design this at the beginning, but what it's become is this huge library of education that normally you would go out and pay for on a one-off basis. Biggest difference with Service Catalyst is we're $70 a month and there's no upsells. You get everything. We will never upsell you. You get everything for the $69 a month. And so that's what we're trying to do is we're trying to make accessible education to early cycle service business owners and a community that will help them implement it. And it's all growing in the same direction. We like the words owner independence. There's a lot of components to that. Some days it's profitability, some days it's lead gen, some days it's systems. It's all rolling up to the same thing, owner independence. And we don't talk about this a lot because a lot of our people aren't in this mindset, but it's the same thing that will also help them sell their businesses lucratively when that time comes.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems like an amazing value. So walk me through, so Service Catalyst, you're in a membership portal, there's forums, I'm guessing you're talking about a resource library. So is there like video content of education as well inside this? And is that being updated regularly? Just walk me through, if constantly. I'm in there, what do I get?
Yeah, so constantly. So we have 3 and about to be 4 full online courses. So one is kind of an overview course from me that's updated quarterly. In fact, we just rolled out the most recent version 2 weeks ago. It's an overview of the concept of what's the breadth of the knowledge I need to have to own a business that thrives without me. Then we have a course on creating better reels and ads for your business, how to get true engagement from your reels and ads. That's from one of my partners has a social advertising background. So it's, hey, I want to DIY this. which a lot of these folks at least start there. Eventually, they often hire an agency similar to yours, Sam, which is great. We want to help them in both capacities, but there's a full 10-part course on that. We just rolled out a HR Foundations course. So if you want to learn how to effectively both compliance and success from a cultural perspective, go from 0 to 5 employees. We had an HR consultant come in and shoot an 8-part course for us for that.
Awesome.
We have a course on if you want to buy a business. That's something that's very near and dear to my heart. Entrepreneurship by acquisition, EAT. It's finally coming into the secondary education realm. I'm doing some work with Colorado State University on that particular topic, but we have a 7-part course on that. So there's all that stuff. And then there's templates and checklists of stuff I use in my businesses, others use in their businesses. And then there's a lot of single video, single template pieces of education. The biggest one is understanding your profit and loss statement as an owner. Like, how does an owner simplify, digest, and manage their P&L? Because most of them aren't even doing it. They're just overwhelmed by it. And I have a framework that, honestly, I didn't even realize was a framework. It's just what I used and developed over the last decade, because I have an education, I have high-level mentors, I have practical applications. So I just made my own framework in the back of my head. Well, we've turned it into something that's probably the single most powerful piece of content in Service Catalyst. So that's the resources. Yep, we have a constant discussion forum. We have 2 live weekly events that are available to any member, and then we'll be expanding that here probably in April to at least 1, if not a couple, monthly Q&A and or deep dives.
Awesome. That's great. On those 2 live discussions, is that you're just there teaching? Is there Q&A as well in the middle of it, or is it just talking from you and your other leadership?
2 concepts. So one is Tuesday mornings. It's called scorecarding. I lead that personally. It's an accountability session. It's only 30 minutes, 7:30 to 8. It's a concept that comes out of Gino Wickman's book Traction, or better known as EOS, or the Entrepreneur's Operating System. A scorecarding is a concept that we have education around, not just a live event, but it says that you should track 3 to 5 important numbers every single week in your business. And that's how you turn decision-making from emotion reactionary into data-driven, effective decision-making over time. It's simple, right? Or it feels simple, but figuring out what those 3 to 5 metrics are and creating the scorecard, that's what the education is about. And then having the individual accountability to review those numbers every single week is what the meeting's about. So you show up, I give a little bit of information, deep dive on the idea, or nugget on the idea, not deep dive, but a nugget on the idea of scorecarding. And then everyone's asked to review their own. They don't have to share. Showing up to the event says that you are taking the time to monitor your numbers. And then a lot of people do share. I usually share one of my scorecards also. It's fun to celebrate wins. A couple weeks ago, everyone's scorecard was green as green can be. A couple weeks before that, it was red. Everyone's is red. Looked like crap. Yeah. You know what? That's the most important time. That's when people stop looking at their numbers and lose that habit of data-driven effectiveness. So that's what our scorecarding event is about. It's an accountability event. Our most popular event is ran by Mike from our earlier story. Mike Wynn is an amazing MC of online meetings.
Oh, that's cool.
If you haven't checked out one of his webinars, there's a couple coming out that are amazing. Roast my digital ads is going to be one of them. Something you might be interested
love it. Yeah, that's great.
So Thursday at noon to 1 is an hour. It is half education. Mike picks a rolling up topic. It's a 52-week scheduled build that can be viewed one-off or will be built on the prior weeks for about 30 to 45 minutes. And then the remaining 15 to 30 minutes is roundtable Q&A, wins and losses, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I love it. I think that's first off, I love the price point. for the value metric. I like having a multiple to a value, and you can pretty confidently say that at $70 a month, like, hey, this is a multiple 10x just on what's provided in the platform. Not to mention access, right? Access is expensive. Your time is worth something. So just creating access to someone who's already done it, especially with your diverse story. Is everybody in that platform primarily all in the service industry?
They are. I would say there's a heavier bend towards trade services or home services, but there's others. There's an HR consultant. There's some pro services that lean towards trades, I guess would be the answer here. And what's really interesting is I realize that my story and my experience is the magnetism. And it's not just that I have done it, I still am doing it. I own a good sized commercial residential window tinting company right now that I'm actively involved in and asking questions and learning in Service Catalyst from. But when you get in, what you realize is the members are the value. Sure, I'm there to help and facilitate a conversation, and I can see a 30,000-foot view because I've been through it soup to nuts a few times. But we have some members that are they have unbelievable ideas that I am constantly learning from. There's a plumbing business out of North Carolina that's in the community. His name's Chris. I learn from him every time he speaks. I mean, so that's cool. My story is the magnetism, but the value is the overall community.
Talk about your learning curve here, because obviously you knew a lot, and then you built systems that your floral story's perfect. But how much more have you learned since you started Service Catalyst that you maybe already kind of know, but you didn't have in place? Because I feel like anytime I've spoken at an event or done an education seminar, I end up learning way more, and it forces me to teach. I have to learn, and I have to systematize and consolidate what I know and figure out how to relay that information. Because a lot of what you're doing, right, is there's a lot up here that needs to be put into a system for an owner. That they might have all of that proprietary knowledge, and you got to get it out, turn it into a system. Did you notice a pretty big jump in even just your knowledge just by starting Service Catalyst?
Both knowledge and awareness. So Service Catalyst was critical for me to have an understanding of how to break through a fairly significant revenue plateau at my own business at SG Window Tint, right? Because revenue plateaus are more often systems based, less often marketing based. So in my opinion, but so that, like, learning that was so critical for me to, not learning it. I mean, I knew the basics of it, but me trying to help other people get through their revenue plateaus really brought home what the limitations were. And then I step back and I look at, like, well, I'm doing the same darn thing in my business.
Right.
So absolutely that. It has really helped me both in my business to organize the next steps, right? Because to me, when I do coaching for people, the big thing that I try and do is, okay, we have this goal that we're going towards. What is the next step that we need to take to get towards that goal? How do we break it down into something actionable? So Service Catalyst has really helped me do that for my businesses. But I will tell you, probably the biggest transformation in me personally is I have the benefit of an academic background in business, a strong prior generation mentorship, and practical application. When I say practical application, I mean trying and failing over and over and over again.
Sure.
I call it being punched in the mouth, right? Like just being punched in the mouth so many times that I have to figure out how to pare all of that information down into actionable steps for our members. So me learning how to do that has been transformational. I'll tell you, I'm going to go back to that profitability P&L as an operator, right? As an example. So that was just a reflex for me. That's just something that I've done for the past 15 years. I've learned it in school. I took a class called financial statement analysis. It taught me a lot of that. When I arrived in the floral business at that big acquisition, my mentor there knew his P&L and percentages down to the penny, or down to the 0.1%, which was the pennies. So then I started managing my P&Ls is a percentage, and it's so much easier if you break your P&L down as target percentages in different expense buckets. And when I say percentages of revenue, okay,
right?
I don't need
it. X percent goes to payroll, X percent goes to cost of goods, and this is 100%. What percent's left. Yeah,
but the opposite. So there's a book, I'm going to steal this concept from a book called Profit First. Actually start with the profit that I'm targeting, not what's left over. What is my target net profit percentage? Say it's 20%. That means I have 80% left to divide over utilities, cost of goods sold, marketing, whatever my expense categories are, right? Yeah. Really, really simplifies it. What it does is it helps you identify the red flags very quickly. So if you just look at percentages, you can find your problems, if there's problems on your P&L, and dive into the numbers there. If you look at all your numbers that fluctuate seasonally, that change as you grow, that small amounts here can mean large amounts, it's very difficult to have discernible information. Whereas if we just break it into a 100-piece pie, it's really easy to identify the problems and dive into that.
Yeah.
I'm not here to teach on that necessarily.
Sure.
I kept in our meetings, I kept saying, "Oh, what is your percentage of this?" I've never looked at it like that. "Oh, okay, no problem. Profit as a percentage." Next. "Oh, my target cost of goods ratio is 19% for SG window tint. What's yours?" I've never even thought, and so that happened over and over and over again. And I realized, hey, there are some things that I need to step back and show people some framework on that will help them quickly get to owner independence. I can't it's very difficult for me to manage, me with a finance degree in 20 years of experience in running my business, to manage my P&L without percentages. If you pull up my QuickBooks and there's no percentage of revenue, I'm on my profit and loss statement, I'm freaking lost, man.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
good.
Anyway, that's an example of me kind of learning, hey, some of this stuff I need to peel back, design the framework, and teach our team or teach our members on.
Really good. How many of your businesses did you purchase first start?
I have only started 2 businesses. One being Service Catalyst, the other one being a niche home service company that I exited at the end of 25. Everything else we acquired. I'm a huge believer in entrepreneurship by acquisition, like I mentioned.
And how did that break that, if you want to mind sharing, break down the difference for you? So you did, we'll throw out Service Catalyst. So you've bought some, then you start one. Which one came first? Did you buy first or did you start one first?
I bought SG Window Tint when I was 21 years old.
Okay.
I've literally found it on BizBuySell. For those of you that don't know, that's the Zillow for businesses to be retraded. It was around even back then, which is unbelievable. I established a relationship with a commercial banker that believed in me. I applied for an SBA 7A loan, was approved for it. It was a very small purchase. Again, we didn't come from money. We were bootstrapping all of this. So we bought our first business when we were 21. I will tell you, we failed at buying a business prior to that, learned a lot of lessons. So that's a piece. The reason that I believe in purchasing where possible versus starting is it mitigates so much risk. A lot of people look at the purchase price and the loan servicing. It's like, well, those are all based on free and available cash flow. Mm-hmm. So I have relative certainty, at least way more certainty than a startup, then I'm going to have the cash flow to not only service my expenses, I'm going to have the free cash flow after that to service my debt.
Yeah.
If I have any aptitude for growth and increased profitability, I can pay my debt off quicker. What happens then? Now I just have established cash flow that's going into my pocket.
Yeah.
The failure rate, I don't know what it is, but the failure rate for startups versus the failure rate for acquisitions don't even compare.
No, yeah.
The other thing is right now, there's a huge opportunity. There's tons of boomers who are planning to let their businesses dissolve, walk away from. They've never thought of their business as having value. They've owned it and operated it as a job. Honestly, the case when I was acquiring back in the day, it was a little bit more complicated. But
that's interesting.
Yeah, there's so many more businesses out there that for sale, and the risk is so much less than starting a business from scratch.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. I went a different trajectory than you did. We have a very similar story, just you did it better than I did. That's what our first meeting, I told you that. I was like, no, a lot of what you're saying sounds really familiar. And, but I still have a lot to learn. But to your point, our first time to do an acquisition, and we've only done it once, or twice. I guess we have done it twice. The first one was an appliance store, and it was the same exact situation. Two baby boomers, two separate businesses that we were able to acquire and merge them together in appliance service and appliance retail. But that's exactly what was going on. They were this close to just hanging up the keys and not selling. And it was a great opportunity for both parties, really. Both parties won on the deal. And it's still going today. And honestly, that was one of the most, by far, most successful things we've been a part of. My brother and I kind of doing all these startups together at the beginning. But yeah, looking back on it, my goodness, our very first company, it was hard. So talk about that. So you did the acquisition. So then you decided to do a startup. Was that the mold one, by the way? I was looking at your portfolio of the mold remediation.
Yep.
So you go do that startup, you exit it. Was it as good of a, obviously harder, because you have, zero, and I don't know if you partner with someone strategically, but do you mind sharing that? Just walking through that startup?
No, not at all. So we partnered with an operating partner that had the concept and they had some proof of concept. For better or worse, they'd run it into the ground and they didn't know the business management component of it. They didn't know how to account for it. They didn't know how to market it. So they identified us as, which happened a lot. That just happened to be one that we went after. But so the reason I did that particular one as a startup is A, it was so niche. There was no acquisition opportunity. Not going to happen. And B, we ran it super overhead tight. So the risk was relatively low. And C, I didn't need the income. It was a pet project. So it was extraordinarily successful. We kept it it was never big revenue. Business is really interesting. Everyone wants to talk about top line revenue. It maxed out at like 350 in top line revenue. But you know what? It was 32% net profit year after year after year after paying my operating owner 40% year after year after year. And it cost me about 5 hours a month. So for me, it was probably the singular best investment that I ever did. But it had to have those components of,
you don't need to get paid. You have money to get it, so it doesn't run out of resources. And you needed
well capitalized.
You're well capitalized. You needed an industry expert, correct? Yep. That's another reason for the success. Someone knew how to do the work.
Had all the answers
to the specific trade. That's huge.
Yep.
Yeah.
So another area that I'm a big fan of for acquisition is growth by acquisition. For whatever reason, that's even less talked about. For small service businesses, instead of opening a new business or a new electrician
new location,
service area for electrician in Denver when you're in Fort Collins, why not buy a mom and pop, take their base of revenue, rebrand it, and then grow your own brand based on their base of revenue. It's because we're seeing this a lot right now in this particular economic climate where people grew too big too fast. And that's about expanding without a base of revenue. What we see happen all the time is people have a profitable business over here in Fort Collins. And they take that and they say, great, I'm going to replicate the model in Denver. And they take their profitable business, start feeding a startup, and don't correctly allocate how long it's going to take for that startup to get profitable. And so we literally see that happen all the time. I have done it. I have done it. I had to close an expansion in a poor economy for SG Window Tint. That it's not that we weren't going to make it; it's that my profitable business was feeding this unprofitable expansion. Well, guess what? I'm about to do the same exact expansion. I'm just going to do it by buying a base of revenue first. So I'm a big proponent of that.
That's good. Yeah, that's really good. Yep. Nope. Been there, done that. And I didn't learn the first time or the second time, but by about the third time, it was like, Samuel, stop doing this. It's so hard, especially when you're, especially on the marketing sales side, when you believe you can capture a market. It's just the time is so speculative, and it's kind of like gambling, honestly, in some senses, until you get enough information and you learn it. You learn how to do it the right way finally to realize how to do expansion right. And a lot of times you don't need to take expansion as far as you think. A lot of times you can do strategic expansion, not too far away where resources, you don't need as many resources to pull it off. But yeah, that's really good. Growth by acquisition, I think, is, especially in these trade companies, huge opportunity. I think in the, the appliance industry that I got out of a year and a half ago, there's a lot of opportunity right there to roll up some of those mom and pop's shops, kind of similar to floral industry. They just sell major appliances. Yeah. Did you do that in the floral industry? Did you roll up a couple of them? Okay.
Yeah. So we maxed out at 5. In fact, the biggest reason we exited is we either needed to roll. We exceeded like the real economies to scale, right? We had now other limitations, basically technology. There's not a ton of technology for flower shops. So we either needed to buy like 20 more or sell to the guys buying 20 more. That's what we ultimately ended up doing. I'd like to make one other point on like expansion and founding and like that thought process. Something a really good friend of mine, a really smart guy, in fact, his first book is coming out. His name's Greg Rader. Told me a couple of years ago. He said, if I'm gonna expand or if I'm gonna start something, I need to make sure that I have an unfair advantage. And what he's meaning by unfair advantage is that there's something unique about you and your situation that almost makes it impossible to fail. Almost makes it so much so that it feels unfair, right? So let me give you an example. He was buying a commercial HVAC company. Well, he was the 3rd largest commercial real estate broker in Northern Colorado in his prior career, and owns a large commercial property management company in that particular footprint. So he has this base of business for his HVAC company that the HVAC company isn't even utilizing right now. So he has built-in growth.
Yeah.
How can you create, if you're going to expand, if you're going to found something, how can you create an unfair advantage for yourself? So anyway, that's the framework that I operate from, and I stole it from Greg.
That's beautiful. And vertically integrating too. I mean, that's kind of the unfair advantage that a lot of people do. And sometimes you say you're vertically integrating, but you really went off a little bit beyond what you offer. And I've done that a couple times, but for example, it'd be like our cleaning company we added air duct cleaning And that was a beautiful addition. We've added other services that weren't, but we're already in the home, have a network with all the property managers, and we're cleaning carpets. And it's like, we should do air duct cleaning like the right way and then let everyone know. And then that just rolled in immediately, right? You got an 8-year customer base that's already trusts you to clean items in their home, upholstery, carpet. Then you come in with an air duct cleaning system and everybody already refers you anyway on the property management side. That was one of the few that went well. Trying to
why those
integrate.
Sometimes the others don't go well because people do it too quickly, meaning their core business isn't profitable and growing, and they're trying to fix it by adding something else on. So that's we speak on this a lot in Service Catalyst of, hey, if you're going to add a new product or service, you only do it if your core product and service is growing and profitable. Otherwise, you need to fix that. Adding something new is not going to fix that. So that's the framework that we operate within when it comes to kind of vertical integration within your own business.
That's really good. Was there a time, a little more personal question, was there a time when things looked super successful? Everybody thinks Tim Jordan is just killing it, but on the inside of the business, you're like, this is a mess. Was there a time where you experienced everybody thought you were the bee's knees, but you go home and you're like, this could be broken tomorrow?
Running the 15th largest flower shop in the country, the largest in the state, at late 20s and early 30s, looked very glamorous isn't the right word. Looked very,
it was
much
pretty.
Like,
it's beautiful. There were flowers.
Yeah. I'm wearing suits. I'm speaking on stages. I'm, getting interviewed for articles nationally and locally, all of that kind of stuff. I was an industry leader, right? It was so hard, bro. Yeah. We had, first of all, founder secession is a challenge. I love Spiro Palmer, the founder that I succeeded. Love him. We'll see him every month this year, or most every month this year. Founder secession is hard, man. We not only is their expectations, especially in a visionary founder like Spiro, there's also a lot of baggage that comes with it. And the culture that worked for the founder never works for the person succeeding them. And so the first time was when we kind of unwrap this, right? We're in our late 20s and we're like, this culture is a disaster. At least from our experience, everyone hates each other. No one's speaking. None of the shops work together, so we have no economies to scale. These two shops are competing against each other actively. So there was just this cultural debacle that I had to figure out how to fix. So that was the first one, man. Literally, all hands meetings where the room hates each other. Think about that. Think about walking into an all hands where these people feel like competitors. They feel like this person slighted them yesterday. It was such a mess.
Yeah.
So that. And then let's call a spade. I don't need to, I can be transparent with you. Running a very large retail business is a cash flow disaster. We had $27,000 a month in rent payments. $27,000. You know how many flowers you have to sell to pay $27,000 a month in rent payments?
Oh.
You know how many times Danielle and I had to put 6 figures into that business? Cash to make it go, to make payroll. It's not that it wasn't profitable. It was. Cash flow is a mess in many retail businesses, especially through COVID in the middle of all that. It was so hard, such a challenge, dude. There are other times after Valentine's Day, after wedding season, we did $1 million in wedding flowers annually, which is insane.
Yeah.
There's some days we'd have 8 or 10 weddings going on at one time. every single time after Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, and wedding season, our team was burnt out to the bone. Awful feeling as a leader.
Yeah.
Awful. Every single year we asked questions why. We installed new processes. Anyway, I could go on that, but like that's kind of a low key time of just, oh, this looks so great. You just wrapped up a season where you did $1 million in wedding flowers, the largest wedding flower business in the state of Colorado. It's like, yeah, people that I love, they hate me.
Yeah.
Right? They feel like I worked them to the bone. Like, I didn't, they didn't actually hate me.
Sure.
But I felt like they hated me.
But yeah, that's just a hard culture to keep going whenever there's burnout. And by the nature of what you do, a seasonal company that has like highs and lows, right? Like it's hard. The inflatable business we messed around in for 8 months. Well, it's hard to find people that only want to work on weekends and work 12-hour days on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? Like that's not a great personal life. You have to be at a certain place in life for that to be okay. But now I hear you, man. Thanks for being transparent about that. Just the pressure and burnout you put on your people and when it's unavoidable. What was the best thing you did to keep that intact? What was the best thing you did for culture during burnout seasons with high volume weddings and Valentine's Day?
Yeah.
Did you buy them flowers?
No, nothing.
They didn't want
like
to see a flower
works.
ever again.
Well, and there's not enough money in the world. You know what it was? Is they had to know, I had to care for them as humans individually. They had to know and not act. I wasn't making them feel this way. I was authentically doing it. Our entire leadership team would authentically make them understand that they were more important than the next dollar coming through the door. And that sounds kind of like touchy-feely.
Yeah.
But it's not, man.
But like, how do you do that at scale? You had like 100 people. How, what does that like practically look like? Just, hey, this is, so every store manager, right? So all of them having to be on the same page of people first, I'm assuming was the big part of it.
Yeah. Let me tell you something about that business. It was 35% of it was employee owned.
Oh,
so
cool.
Danielle and I owned 65% and 35% was employee owned. Actually, that I haven't mentioned that, but that's a big thread throughout my career. Currently, Landon Steinkamp, who runs SG Window Tint for me on a day-to-day basis, owns a big chunk of it. Also, we love having stakeholders that are also. So what that looked like is me at scale, is me leading by example. Meaning, every single one of those employee owners had to know that they mattered more to me than revenue growth, than profitability, than anything else, right?
Yeah.
And which is true, right? If you're going to have a real culture, you can't fake that, right? You have to be authentic about that. And then I had to create a system to have them deploy that to their teams. So what that looks like is culture-based hiring, right? Really focused culture-based hiring. Consistent, I call it non-emergency meetings, right? Non-emergency touch points with EOS would call them weekly L10s. I didn't know, I wasn't using EOS. hadn't even heard of it at that time, but that's what it was. Touching base with them on a weekly basis so that they have a support system that's modeling this people first culture. And then leading by example at the store level, right? I was in each store once a week kind of a thing, other than where my office was, right? But when I walked in, you're going to get a handshake from me. You're going to get a compliment from me. You're going to get a question about your family or your kiddos. Leadership is challenging to scale, but the capable people have to find a way to make the team feel like people, and it's easier said than done.
Yeah. I love that you're giving people stake in the company. I think that's a wonderful, beautiful vision for how small business can scale, and you keep people for a long time. And there's ways to do it, like key man equity, and or obviously just over time based on how long they stay, tenure, certain positions. We've had, some of my best business partners were employees first, and then became business partners, and that's such a cool story.
The hardest part about it is there's so many different ways to do it. People get overwhelmed.
Dude, I know.
With it.
I've had a lot of people ask, what do you think is the best way to do it? People ask me that all the time. Hey, I think this person, I should make them a partner. How do I structure it? Like, do they have voting rights? Should they, we don't have to open that big black box, but.
So situational. And to me, the only real answer to that is they have to have some type of skin in the game. It doesn't have to be money, but it has to be something of true value. I prefer money. I think that's the easiest way, but they have to have something of true value that they invest in the business so that they're not gifted. I've tried giving it to people. It's an abject failure more often than not. But I'll tell you, it works when you figure it out. It works really, really well.
Yeah. So I feel like a lot of small businesses, myself included, have experienced you get stuck at that 300,000 a year to $1 million. And a lot of them think, if I just get to that $1 million mark, it's going to be great. And then when you get to that $1 million mark, you're like, I really need to be a little over 2 million for this to work, just depending on where they're at. But what's like the best advice? Like, if they could change something immediately, they're listening to this podcast, they could change one thing immediately. What would be your advice to someone that's definitely feeling stuck from profitability to, and you don't like talking about top line revenue versus the bottom line. So I'm kind of setting you up here also with telling me I'm asking a bad question.
To me, there's one thing I see constantly in that space between 300,000 and $1 million, and that is a truly effective lead handling process. I'll tell you, I ask every business that joins the community or that I'm around about their lead handling process. About 1 in 20 give me an answer of what I would qualify as an effective lead handling process. What that means is the steps that I take from receipt of lead to paying customer. What are the steps that I take that make it most likely for that lead to become a paying? And what I see most often is most owners are either doing it themselves, so they don't believe that they need or should have a process, or B, they have kind of treated each lead uniquely each time, right? They've adjusted and played, and that's what they expect their team to do, which confuses the holy heck out of their team. Yeah. They may not tell them that, but that's in reality what's happening. So the effective steps, I call it the right way of handling your leads, whatever that is. That could look completely different for you, Sam, than it does for me at SU, but the question that you need to ask yourself is, I get one lead this week. I only have one lead this week. What are the steps that I'm going to take to make it most likely that lead turns into a paying customer? To me, that is the most common bottleneck that keeps people sub-million. Now, you apply that same logic across your other areas of your business, i.e. pricing, i.e. P&L management, those kinds of things. It makes it quicker to push through that $1 million barrier. But at the end of the day, if you want one, it's your lead handling procedure. You need to do it better. What I found, what happened for me, SG was stuck for 4 years at the $1 million revenue plateau. 4 years. You know what happens when you do that? It's the story is timeless, right? Leads are my problem. More marketing dollars, more marketing dollars, more marketing. Guess what happened to my margin? Right? Because leads weren't the problem.
What margin?
Right? Exactly. So because leads were the problem. Yeah. So now what I was doing is I was trying to break through $1 million revenue plateau with my systems and procedures that got me from 200,000 to a million. If I want to get to 3 million, I got to build the systems at about $1 million that are of quality for a $3 million business. That's the idea. If you're stuck at a revenue plateau, you got to look forward. What are the things in the future my company will need to be doing or to be true at that level? And I got to build those today.
Yeah,
that's
really good. That's really good. Well, and the multiplier, I love that visual of just that multiplier. Okay, yeah, I'm stuck in 1 million, but let's just talk about what we need to put in place because we're going to be at 3 million. So we have X amount of leads coming in. We're only closing this many. But if those leads multiplied by 3x that we had coming into the business, would our systems break? Most likely. And they're probably already broken, so we might as well redo them anyway. But that's great advice, dude. Just obsessing over that. I feel like, you think about like Steve Jobs, who wasn't necessarily the best engineer but he was obsessed with that consumer experience with touching the product, how it felt, like just putting attention to detail on things that, nobody was thinking about, from the curves on the iPhone to like how his app interface worked. But I love that. That's great advice. And we run into that all the time on the marketing side is we come in and nothing's being closed. Well, I can't help them close more. But they should join Service Catalyst and they'll close more leads.
Definitely we have education around that. I would have any education around this. And honestly, these are the types of conversations that spur what education's next. I love the idea of the customer experience. To me, the fastest way to grow your business is to provide an unbelievable customer experience at all touch points. And the more that we as service entrepreneurs believe that and practice that, the quicker our business will not only grow, but grow sustainably, because there is a difference between growth and sustainable growth.
Yeah. Yeah. And you put in 20 more hours, then now you're at that 60-hour a week and you're finally making it, but you have a 2% net margin. You finally take a paycheck and your life's miserable and you can't afford to hire the guy at 40 hours a week to take over your spot. And it all goes back to systems, 100%.
The ideal client profile for Service Catalyst is the person you just described. They have a successful business that makes money, but the only path for growth is for them to work more.
Yeah.
And that comes with all kinds of constraints as well. But if we paint it on the positive side, the only path for growth is to work more hours. The difference between that and an owner-independent business is foundational systems that scale, an owner mindset, and have a trusting culture that your team operates within.
Yeah, that's awesome. Dude, thank you so much. Two things. One, what's the best way for people to participate, follow along before they join? Is it Service Catalyst on LinkedIn, Tim Jordan on LinkedIn, Facebook? Where's the best place they can keep up with what you guys are up to?
Yeah, Tim Jordan on LinkedIn is great. Tim Jordan CO on LinkedIn is awesome. Probably the highest value. Well, we give a bunch of our stuff away for free just because we're not about paywalling knowledge. But I write a weekly newsletter that you can subscribe to at thecatalystcommunity.com. It's free. It's all of this stuff. It's the stories. It's education. It's it's community for people that are running these businesses trying to figure out how to not own a job and to own a business. So check me out on LinkedIn. Check out our website, which is thecatalystcommunity.com. And I would love to have you plug into our newsletter. I have this fun assessment that I've spent way too much time building, but it is highly customized. It's the owner independence quiz. It's linked right on the website. But if you're just kind of curious as to the mindset and the steps, it's really individually diagnostic. So you get a personalized, not only where are you at, but where would I believe your next steps are. So that's a fun way to engage also.
It's perfect. And then last thing, I'd love to have you on again with a more specific topic, if you would be down for that. And I only ask this when I do it in front of everyone. So you just feel a little pressure to say yes, and I apologize. But that's my last thing. I'd love to have you back on and dive into something maybe a little more specific, into the weeds on from acquisition to building. I think it'd be fun. I want to bring some people back on with kind of shorter episodes where it's like a 30-minute deep dive on, really intense subject matter. I think that would really help our listeners on just growing and surviving being a business owner. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
I'll tell you, business acquisition, I think, is the most topical thing that you could speak on. I would, or that you could produce content on. I would love to have a deep dive on that. It's something that I'm passionate about, and I've done well, and I've also messed up, so I can share some of those stories as well.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you, Tim, so much. Appreciate you being on.
Sam, you're the man. I appreciate you. This was super fun. You're an awesome host.
Thanks, dude. Talk soon.